Hello everybody, my name is Dakoba and welcome back to Satisfactory. Now we are standing here outside of our brand new Fixmas factory, which is going to be the emphasis of today's episode. We're going to go through the Fixmas holiday event, talk about all the things you can do, all the research you can unlock, and go over how you can build a Fixmas factory that'll allow you to maximize efficiency while keeping holiday cheer to an acceptable minimum. Now before we get started, I wanted to make a quick comment on today's video. It's going to be a little bit different format than some of the previous episodes of this Let's Play series. We had some bad storms hit my area this week, and with the power outages they caused, I lost some footage. So instead of trying to re-record everything, I decided to just do things a little bit differently this week. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of this episode and this format, and whether or not you'd like to see more of it. With that out of the way, we have a great deal to talk about today, so let's get into it. Now when you first get into Fixmas, the first thing you're going to notice are some changes to the hub. Notably, there's a new calendar located right next to your hub terminal, and inside your bedroom, there's a game you can play, Productive Packer Deluxe. If you take a close look at the calendar, you'll see the different numbers corresponding to different days in the month of December. As the month progresses, you can click on each of these to get some items. Some of the items are used to unlock new research within the Fixmas holiday, so this is definitely an important thing to do. You also get a bunch of bonus items. In this case, we got 25 Fixmas bows, which is a great prize. You may also notice presents airdropping around your world. These are important because they're used to start unlocking Fixmas research. Progress in the Fixmas event is made at the MAM. Opening the MAM, you'll see the Fixmas Holiday Event research tree open up. The first research item will make use of the presents that you find falling all around your world. After that, those same presents will be crafted into various other items, which will allow you to construct new Fixmas components at various machines. In total, you'll make use of smelters, constructors, assemblers, and foundries to craft all of your different Fixmas components. As you research new tiers and new technologies, additional components will be unlocked for crafting. These will allow you to craft more components, equipment, and structures to progress through the holiday event, eventually unlocking full automation. Once you unlock your first giant Christmas tree upgrade, it's time to start looking for a place to build a Fixmas factory. You'll want to choose a place with access to both iron and copper, as those will be important resources to make use of in your factory, as well as plenty of space to build. Fixmas factories can get big. Now that we've covered the basics, it's time to build our Fixmas factory. We've chosen a location a few hundred meters to the southwest with ready access to both iron and copper. Let's get into it. Alright, and that is a Fixmas holiday event factory all complete. Let's go through how it works. We start by mining 120 iron and 120 copper ore and smelting those into bars using 8 smelters. Next, we use 12 Fixmas gift trees to produce 180 Fixmas presents per minute. We send 240 of them into smelters to produce 120 red ornaments, and the rest into 12 more smelters to produce 120 blue ornaments. Elsewhere in our factory, we use constructors to turn more gifts into Fixmas bows, candy canes, branches, and actual snow, which we then craft into snowballs. We combine the blue ornaments with our iron bars in 8 foundries to produce iron Fixmas ornaments, and we use 12 more foundries to combine the copper bars and red ornaments into copper Fixmas ornaments. We use half of our iron and copper ornaments to craft Fixmas ornament bundles in 4 assemblers. Half of those Fixmas ornament bundles are then combined with some Fixmas branches from 3 constructors to produce Fixmas holiday decorations in 2 more assemblers. And half of the Fixmas holiday decorations, along with some candy canes from 2 constructors, are then crafted into 1 Fixmas Wonder Star per minute in our last production step. Finally, all of our products are loaded into a storage system, with room for a train line to be added later. Alright, and with our Fixmas factory all complete, we can go ahead and check that off our list. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of this thing. And check mark. Done. And change the color. Done. Alright. Now we have a few more things we want to do in today's episode before we wrap up. Notably, I want to send off our space elevator and unlock tiers 5 and 6, as well as take a look at our first milestone in tier 5, because that's going to lay the foundation for what we get to do next time. Alright, in our last episode, we went ahead and constructed a temporary little factory that'll take many of the components we have on hand from our assorted other factories around the map and combine them into our space elevator components, in particular our versatile framework and our smart wiring. In addition to that, I have also gathered up the 500 smart plating that we'll need. So let's go ahead and get things loaded up and get this space elevator sent away. Alright, now our next space elevator trip is going to require a modular engine and adaptive control unit, which we don't have yet, so we don't really know what those are going to require. It's also going to require 2,500 versatile framework, which is a huge number, so we're definitely going to be building a little bit more substantial factory than this for that, but we will do that at another time. Let's go ahead and get over to the hub and take a look at our milestones. Alright, it looks like tiers 5 and 6 have some very nice milestones for us, and today we're going to be taking a look at oil processing. Fortunately, this is something we have all the components we need for, we just need to gather them up, so we'll pop out and do that real soon. That'll give us the oil extractor, refinery, and the ability to make plastic and rubber, as well as a handful of other components, which we'll talk about more at a later time. Once we get some plastic and rubber, we'll be able to unlock industrial manufacturing. And in particular, this is going to give us the manufacturer, which represents our shift into sort of the next phase of the game, where we really get to start looking at more complex recipes. The alternative fluid transport milestone and gas mask milestones are also things we're going to be playing with, but those are a little less important to our sort of very near-term plans, so we'll get into those at another time. Tier 6, though, is where things get interesting again, because we have a ton of really awesome milestones here. In particular, we have the expanded power infrastructure, which allows us to use fuel generators. Even with as massive as our coal plant is, but remember, as 64 coal generators in it, we're already starting to push the boundaries of it. And so these fuel generators are going to be huge for us to have power moving into the next phase of the game. This will also give us our Mark IV conveyor belts and lifts. We also have the jetpack technology, which makes exploration so much easier, which is going to be super important given how many new alternate recipes have just unlocked for us. And so we'll need to go gathering all of the hard drives in order to make use of those. And then we have trains, and trains are one of the things I am most excited to play with in Update 5. I can't wait to get into this. We also have our Mark II pipelines, which are definitely something we're going to make a lot of use of very soon. For today though, we're going to be focusing on oil processing. Let's go ahead and select this milestone and run around and gather up the materials we need so that we can get out and find some oil. Alright, and let's get this milestone sent away. And with that milestone away, we can now scan for crude oil, so let's see where we have some. Alright, it looks like we've got some crude oil not far from our plants out east, so that's probably where we're going to be heading. There's also some down south, which we may take a look at a little later as well, because we are going to need a ton of this stuff. So let's head out east and see what we can see. While we head out, I did notice in the patch notes that there is a new vehicle UI. Instead of having a radial menu, we now have a sort of normal record menu, which I've got to say is much better because it was way too easy to accidentally hit the wrong button before and mess things up. Alright, as we approach our oil vein, we've also come across our first large spitter. Let's go ahead and take care of this crab here, and then we'll deal with the spitter. Alright, now the large spitters are not that hard to fight. They're pretty similar to the small ones, but they do have a few more attacks that we need to be mindful of. And you can see one of those here where it throws out a fireball and then it starts sort of spitting out fireballs in a, not exactly a random direction. They all seem to be targeted at me. You can also see it does sort of the shotgun blast where it throws a fireball out that then breaks into 4 to try and catch you on the move. Now, one of the things with this is that these are always going to be aimed sort of at where you're standing. So in order to evade these, you just need to sort of keep moving around, and then, like with the small spitters, we need to move in, jump away as it fires, and then go in for the smack. Looks like we got a lizard doggo back there. We'll be grabbing here in a little bit as well. Now, it's also worth noting that both the Xeno Basher and the Candy Basher have a 2-part attack, and the second part attack does double damage. So the first hit does 7, and the second hit does 14. So if you have to sort of miss one, make sure you're missing the first one. Alright, we'll take this guy home later on, but we want to make sure that he stays nice and safe, so we built a little enclosure for him here out near our oil fields. Alright, I do want to talk briefly about the refinery, so let's go ahead and take a quick look at it. Now, the refinery is an interesting building because it has both fluid and solid inputs and outputs, and notably, it's going to take the crude oil as its fluid input, and then we can use that for a number of different products. But most products are going to produce both a solid and fluid output. And in particular, our early options are plastic, rubber, and fuel, which are all in this sort of way. So for example, if we take a look at plastic, you can see that we're going to take the liquid crude oil input. That'll give us the solid plastic, which we can then, place in a storage container or truck back to base. But we're also going to get this fluid heavy oil residue, and this is the grand challenge of working with oil in refineries. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into this because it's something I want to cover in another video at another time, but this is the big challenge, is how do you deal with these sort of fluid residues. And now I think for today, we're just going to get started with a very small, simple factory, and I think we have an impure oil node out there, which we should be able to tap for about 60 crude oil a minute. That'll be great because we can use 30 of that to make plastic, and then if we take a look at the rubber recipe, we can see that also takes 30. So that'll give us 40 plastic and 40 rubber per minute. But you'll see that'll also give us 30 of this heavy oil residue per minute that we have to deal with in some way. And the good news is that we can deal with that using another refinery, which will take that heavy oil residue and turn it into petroleum coke. And that takes that liquid output and turns it into a solid output. Now, the petroleum coke has a lot of the same properties as coal, and we will end up using a lot of that petroleum coke in the short term for producing some additional power used with coal generators, and later on for making aluminum. But for now, I think we're just going to go ahead and sync that. And that should give us all we need to unlock a few more milestones and set up a more permanent logistics system and a larger oil processing plant in our next couple episodes. Alright, our basic oil setup is all complete. Let's go through it. We have a single oil extractor which is sitting on an impure well that's giving us 60 units of oil per minute. We have 2 refineries, each one takes 30 units of oil per minute, one to make plastic and the other to make rubber. Eventually we'll put these into a truck station and send them back to main base to go into our storage system. However, for the meantime, we only need a few until we have enough resources to do a larger and more permanent oil setup, and so this is going to do just great. Now, each of those refineries also has a fluid byproduct, which is the heavy oil residue. So we are piping that over into another refinery where we turn this into petroleum coke. Now, there are much better uses for petroleum coke than what we're doing with it, but notably, the one that we care about right now requires water, and there's no water nearby. So right now, we are just sort of sinking. We're dropping it into an awesome sink here, and that will allow the system to run until those storage containers fill up, and that should give us all the plastic and rubber we need for today. Now, I do want to do a much deeper dive into oil processing, but that really warrants an episode all on its own. And so for today, I just wanted to get this very basic bare bones setup up and running so that we have the materials we need to get started with this next time. All right, and with our refinery plugging away there in the background and our new friend directly in front of us, I think that is where we will leave it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Leave a like if you have and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thank you again and have an efficient day.